Whether you've been homeschooling for years or you're just thinking about taking the plunge, let us help you put the edge in your child's education here on The Homeschool Edge with your host, public school teacher turned homeschool hero, Erin Lee.
Wow, is episode 7 gonna be amazing? Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Hey, I'm Erin with the Homeschool Edge, and we got a great show for you today. In fact, earlier this week, I got to sit down with a very big activist for children's and parental rights, and very much an opponent of the transgender ideology. Erin Lee, she's been on all the big shows in the country over and over again. She's speaking all over the country at different conferences, so you're not going to want to miss that. Next, what we'll do is we'll take a look at a headline that, shows about how transgenderism is affecting even sports, and I'm sure you know a little bit about it, but I'm going to have an interesting take for you. Also, during our Get Educated segment, I'm going to let you know of a lot of the conferences, a lot of the things that you can get involved with on your end to try to stand up for our children and protect homeschooling. And of course, we're going to go take a peek at those public school teachers, see what's going on in there. You can never tell for sure. All right, everyone, stay tuned. Homeroom Headlines is next. Here we are at Homeroom Headlines, and of course, you guessed it, we're joined by the one, the only Principal B. Principal B, what's the buzz?
Hey, the buzz is swell. It's a swell buzz today. Not to be confused with a swollen buzz. I already saw the doctor about that, and everything's been clearing up. We're doing fine.
Good. I'm glad to hear the doctor's report was positive. Yeah, you got to watch that stuff. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yes. So here we are. We have our article today. Is from the New Boston Post. And I'm sure it's no surprise to you, Principal B, or anybody else that's going to be listening. Here's the title. New Hampshire transgender track athlete wins state championship meet. Principal B, these articles are getting a little ubiquitous, right?
We do seem to see a lot of this stuff these days. I remember the days when these news stories first came out, and it was like, what? And you thought, well, that's not gonna that doesn't make any sense. They're not gonna run with this. Clearly, the world is gonna not let this become the norm, and yet here we are.
And yet here we are, like so many things. Let me read the beginning of the article for you all, and then we'll get some reflections here going. Maël, I guess this name is Maël Jacques or Jacquez, is a state champion. Kearsarge Regional High School sophomore Maël Jacques, that's what I'm just going to name it, a male who identifies as transgender and competes in girls track, won the girls high jump at the New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association Division II state championships this weekend. With a jump of 5 feet 1 3/4 of an inch, Jacques beat out the other contenders at the meet held at Plymouth State University in Plymouth, New Hampshire, on Sunday, February 11th, according to the state's track and field results reporting system. Jacques competed in 4 regular season meets this season and has earned a first-place finish in every single one of them.
Wow.
So
good for them.
I would say so. Yeah, I would mention typically you would need to run in or compete in more than 4 track meets to become a state champion, but I don't know. Maybe something else is going on here, Principal B. Any thoughts on what could be going on with this?
It's a mystery to me. I can't imagine how this could have happened. What I don't understand is that when in sports you got people competing against each other. I always go back to the boxing analogy where they have the different weight classes because you don't want somebody who's a heavyweight being in there with the lightweights and completely obliterating them. And yet it seems like that same model should apply, certainly could apply to all other sports. because it seems like the heavyweights are getting let into the lightweight divisions here.
Yeah, and let's be clear, heavyweights, the reason we can kind of make this distinction here is because boys are inherently born with multiple I'm just speaking to the choir here, I'm sure. But I
Mhm.
mean if you don't understand this, puberty blockers, whatever kind of intervention, treatments that these transgender kids are being given, they do not change the fact that early development gives boys bigger, stronger muscles, bones, bigger lung capacity, and there's about a million other things that have nothing to do with hormones. So a clear difference here between boys and girls, men and women. And we used to know this as a country. You know, it seems like 5 minutes ago we forgot everything and now everything's spun around and it just is now. This is our new normal here.
It is in fashion, and hopefully, like fashion, it will go out of fashion.
I hope so too. And by the way, Principal B, I can't plug my guest enough. This woman, Erin Lee, she is a activist against this type of thing in the schools and kids in general. It's kind of become her life's mission. And if we don't want it to be the normal, we have to speak up. So we're going to be talking more about that as we get educated too. So
All right,
keep an eye out for that. Now,
sounds like a plan.
yeah, so let me continue with the article. Let's hear from the district superintendent here. This Kearsarge Regional School District Superintendent, Winfried Finneberg. All right, here's what he had to say last spring.
Old Finney.
Old Finney, yes. Kearsarge supports all students and student athletes regardless of their gender identity. Each student athlete has the right to compete in the activity of their choice. The New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association stance on this issue is clear. Denying that opportunity is a violation of equal rights afforded under state and federal law. Okay, let me cut him off right here because he's not being denied an opportunity. He's perfectly able to compete on his natural biological gender, the boys. There's no exclusion at whatsoever of this student from competing in track.
Right.
So just to be clear about that, we don't need new rights. So we have already rights on the books that allow everyone in.
And if a boy said, "Oh, I want to compete. I want to compete on the girls' team," they would say no. But if that same boy then said, "Okay, well, wait, I am now a girl," they would say yes. Like that just doesn't seem to. It doesn't seem to make sense. If they're a boy and they can't compete on the girls' team, there's a reason for that, and it's not just because of how they feel about themselves or what they identify with and how they see their gender fitting into the world. It has to do with a physical component. So it's just unfortunate that the authorities overseeing all of this, they don't see it that way. That they just kind of put the blinders on as soon as the gender card is played.
And let me tell you, there may be another reason that this boy who claims he's a girl wanted to compete with the girls. Well, first of all, he's a sophomore, and he just won the state track title over juniors and seniors. But the second thing to know is that the boys' jump record at the same state meet was about a foot higher. And in high jump, I used to high jump back in the old days. And in high jump world, a foot is like a mile. It is a significant jump in distance. So yeah, that could be another reason, perhaps.
That could be a contributing factor. One can only speculate.
One can only speculate. All right, let's see what other wisdom he can add. He says, further, we believe that limiting access to any activity violates our core mission and vision, which are grounded in supporting every student, and student athletes' right to pursue their goals and interests. As a school community, parents and guardians, faculty, staff, and peers, we celebrate student success and personal growth on and off the field. We firmly believe in guiding each student to becoming caring, compassionate
people who contribute positively to the world and to those around them. We are thankful that our student athletes have been welcomed throughout the season by competing teams and their coaches in the true spirit of athletic competition, and we remain grateful to Kearsarge community for its steadfast commitment to equity and inclusion. There we go, right?
That's where it all comes in. If the future is trans athletes in sports, okay, I'm fine with that. Then let's have a trans league so that you have your boys, you have your girls, you have your trans boys and your trans girls. And that way everyone is competing in a category that is fair for the other students. Because ultimately, you want these sports programs to be inclusive, but you want them to be fair. And to your point, a biological male can compete in the boys' sports, but if the rules are changing to where the biological males are now trans girls, then there should be a trans girls division. I mean, if that's the way they're going to go with it, I think that's what they should do. But they don't have to do any of that. They could just stick with the boys and the girls.
I mean, it's worked for thousands of years, so there's got to be something to that system. This ancient system of things. Well,
yes.
I also have a couple of different takes here. The first one is, the superintendent. That's all well and good, but the problem is you're not respecting and protecting the girls. Being
right.
allowed to succeed and being able to compete on a level playing field. You're actually disrespecting all of the girls because you've just made it a lot harder for them to succeed. I mean, this is the big thing about girls' sports, It was a big deal when it first got started, and now there's really no reason for it. If this thing goes left to an end, I mean, then there's no reason for it.
Right. There could just be the sports program. There's not girl sports. There's not boy sports. There's just the sports.
Right.
And all the girls' scores are all going to be down at the bottom. And then above that will be the trans girls. And then above that will be all the boys.
Right. So again, you've got this inherent problem. Number two, you've got the safety issue when it comes to more of a contact sport. It's so very clear that even if we go, like your analogy earlier, pound for pound, well, you put a male in that's the same weight as a female, the bones are bigger, the muscle development is larger, and it's not even close to a fair comparison. And there's been several instances where women have gotten really hurt in this kind of situation. And
I think those injuries are the price that we just have to pay for equity. I think that they are martyrs to the cause.
Unfortunately, I think that's how it's viewed.
It's very unfortunate.
Well, I think even a step farther here. Here is my view on this. I just don't think it should be allowed. I don't think the idea should be honored. I don't think we should be reactionary in our application of whatever we're going to do next. The idea of a trans league is pretty funny, but at the end of the day, what's happening here now? I'll just keep it to kids under 18. What's happening here is immoral. We are not a country that cuts off the genitals of children and chemically castrates children. This is very barbaric behavior. And I remember not very long ago learning about cultures that did this type of thing and how evil and awful that was.
Yes, and we as a nation were horrified. And now we as a nation are going, well, maybe we should be doing this to our children. It's a fast turnaround. That is a real breakneck turnaround.
Yeah, and I have my own personal feelings on even adults doing this because I just don't think it's a morally proper thing to do. But at the end of the day, where are we saying this boundary stops of what our kids can choose for themselves? We have laws right now on the books, consent laws, and universally everyone has agreed consent laws, you got to be 18 because guess what? The part of the child's brain that hasn't developed fully is that part that can help them imagine and think into the future and future consequences of their behaviors down the road. That part's not even developed yet. And you want to know why we have such an increase in anxiety and depression among teenagers? Well, this is it. We're telling these kids, hey, look, it's all you. It's about you. It's what you want. And what I've learned in my limited time on the earth and experience with this kind of thing is the more you self-focus, the more opportunity you're going to have to be focused on yourself and to become anxious and to not know where to go and where to get guidance from. Because a kid, as independent and smart as some of them are, they're not capable of properly guiding their lives up until a certain point. So
I'm sorry, I was just live streaming on Instagram. What were you saying?
Principal B, come on now, get with the program here.
Yes, whatever you said, I'm all for it. 100%.
I figured you would be, Principal B. Well, hey y'all, we're gonna get educated next, and in fact, it's Principal B. It's not gonna be a resource this time. It's actually gonna be a couple of conferences and organizations that the people here can get connected with. So,
ooh, okay, well that sounds good.
Yeah, you'll have to check.
Well, I'm not gonna crack wise about that. That sounds serious.
It is serious. Yeah, I'll have no wisecrack about that. All right. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us, Principal B, and we will see you in Get Educated. Welcome to Get Educated. All right. Well, today everything is revolving around our special guest, Erin Lee, and I want to make known to you all a couple of events that Erin is part of and that you could come to and help with as well. And the first one is the Don't Mess with Our Kids rally at the Capitals. This happens at Capitals all over the country. It's going to happen on the date April 13th, 2024. You can go to this website, and I'll have it, of course, linked in the show notes, and you can find out how to get involved, what you need to come. I have volunteered to help out and help organize this event here in my home state of Florida. We'll be trekking to Tallahassee on April 13th, so it would be great, and I hope to see you there. Our mandate as humans and as Christians is to stand up for the people that don't have a voice. And part of the people in our country that definitely don't have a voice are children. And if we don't stand up for children now, who else is going to stand up for children? So this is one way that you can make your voice heard, to get your governments to hear our voices, to stand up for the rights of children. Another great event that Erin Lee is a part of is the Freedom Tour. And this is all a part under the organization Her Voice MVMT, short for movement. You can see the web address right there. And of course, again, I'm going to share that in the show notes. But hey, if you live in my area, Erin is coming to Naples, Florida. As you can see here on the flyer, she'll also be in Houston. They're going to be traveling to LA. They're going to be going to Des Moines. So you all, this is for the women in my audience. Get involved. This is a spiritual movement. It's a movement about your freedoms. It's a movement about our kids' freedoms. And you are not going to want to miss this really special event. I've seen clips. I guess I'm not allowed to go because I'm a guy. But I have seen clips. There is powerful worship, like dynamite speakers. And you're going to hear one of them next in the Teacher's Lounge. So, of course, you're going to want to stay tuned for that. Hey, before we get there, let's take a peek into those public schools, shall we?
Boys, here we go. Screwball in the side pocket.
All right, for today's public school peek, I get to sit down and interview an ex-public school teacher for my homeschool co-op. Let's see how that goes. Hey, it's great to sit down with you. So tell me a little bit about your view on teaching.
I'm a gay teacher. Of course I get accused of teaching the gay agenda.
Okay. I mean, could you tell me though a little bit about like how you view the teaching, your philosophy on teaching?
I'm a gay teacher. If kids think that they are part of the LGBTQIA plus community and they have questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, what else do you want to tell me?
I'm a gay teacher. Of course, I teach all the students the fundamentals academia, mathematics, reading, writing, science, social studies, and of course, how to sissy that walk.
Yeah, I should have known better. All right, all right. Hey, sit tight, because here it comes. We sit down in the teacher's lounge with Erin Lee. You're not going to want to miss her story.
All right, everyone, welcome to a very, very special segment of the Homeschool Edge here in the Teacher's Lounge. We have with us today a national outspoken advocate for children, and that is my dear friend and kind of cousin, Erin Lee. Erin, welcome.
Hey, Erin, thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. Well, I had to get you on my show because we are all about homeschooling, getting out of the public schools, taking charge and full control of our children and their education, and also warning people of some of the hidden dangers or not so hidden dangers that seem to be lurking today in our public education. So, Erin, could you just kind of introduce yourself a little bit and then tell us how you went from, I'll let you describe it, but just what, an average parent kind of moving along and through to and becoming an outspoken advocate for our children. Would you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, well, you had a pretty pivotal part in my transition from sleepwalking, lazy Christian mom to outspoken, get all the kids out of public school mom. So May of 2021 is when our story started, and like I said, prior to that, I was kind of a sleepwalking mom. I was a very lazy Christian. My husband and I were not in close relationship with God. We were not teaching our kids to find their identity in Him,
Right.
most importantly. And then, we were punched in the face really with what's happening in our public schools and with this evil transgender agenda that they're pushing on young kids, especially adolescent girls.
Oh my gosh.
We sent our daughter to school. It was a regular Tuesday, and we were doing what we thought we were supposed to do. We went to public school. That's just what you do. We thought you put your kids on the bus, you send them off to the public school, and it was just a regular Tuesday. And our daughter's teacher, her art teacher, invited her to stay after school for art club. She had just turned 12. It was the height of COVID. We're in a new town, new school. She's a shy, quirky, introverted kid. And when she got there, it was GSA, or Gender and Sexuality Awareness Club. And the art teacher had brought in two activists. Luckily, only one showed, but they were a predacious person who runs an organization called Skittles for kids as young as 2 to talk about gender and sex. And the other was a 22-year-old self-proclaimed shape-shifting genderqueer blood witch. And they did disgusting things with the kids. They told them if you're not fully comfortable in your biological sex, that means you're transgender. Queer is a term you can use while you're still figuring out your sexuality. And of course, my daughter adopted both of those things. No 12-year-old girl is comfortable in her body, and she
Of
does not
course.
have a full grasp on her sexuality. So she was taught that means you're queer, you're trans. She was given stickers and flags and bracelets, essentially, toys to go along with the new label. They talked about polyamory, puberty blockers, and how to get them without telling your parents, suicide, saying these new labels make you more likely to kill yourself. They connected on Discord and WhatsApp, and told the kids basically parents aren't safe and it's okay to lie to your parents about where you are in this meeting and others they hold in the community. And even as my daughter left the room, her art teacher pulled her aside and said, "Remember, you don't have to tell your
Oh
parents."
my gosh.
And my 3-year-old is in the room, so if you hear little voices,
Hey, listen, we all got.
monster ducks.
Hey, we've all got kids running around here. We're homeschool parents, right? Yeah.
Yes. But we're lucky our daughter came home and told us what happened. We're really the exception in that way, that most kids follow
definitely.
the rule. and don't tell their parents. But it was too late. I mean, she was so impressionable, and we were so ill-equipped to help her that it spiraled her into months and months of confusion and depression, and ultimately a suicide note. 6 months later, she did not know how to live in the body that God had given her, and she was just so terribly confused. And therapy made it worse. We live in a state where they're legally obligated to only affirm gender confused children, and we didn't understand that. That it just made her worse. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't understand how serious this is, how well organized this transgender movement is. And I've even talked to many people, because I grew up in a smaller town, and I've had friends even say to me now, oh, Erin, where we grew up. It's our high school, middle school is the same way back when we were kids. And I'm like, no, it's very much not. It's hard to find an education, a public government education system that has not been touched or is not fully indoctrinated with this kind of material, for sure.
I challenge people that it's in every single school district in America, the NEA, the state teachers unions. I mean, the system is deeply broken from the top down, and there is no school system in the country that's immune from this ideology. And you're not going to get punched in the face like I did every time, right? Like, it was very obvious what was happening with our daughter, but there's subtle little bites being taken out of our kids. It's the pronoun conversation. It's, these Lives Matter books. It's just this critical theory, and usually in the form of gender queer theory, is being pushed in every area of the curriculum, and it's often undetectable. So it's absolutely happening everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. So Erin, you and your husband, John, your daughter comes home. This has happened. And from the time she came home and she ended up telling you guys about this club, and then you went through this whole process with her, what did you do early on to start letting people know? I know you kind of went to the school first and tried to settle it there. And if I'm not mistaken, you were very surprised how unconcerned and unmotivated people were. So how did you come from, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to our kid, to today, where you're now actively fighting, being attacked for standing up for all of our kids? So talk us through that transitional period.
What an evolution. I mean, our first priority was to make sure our daughter was okay. And like I said, it was about 9 months of us just trying to get her through the confusion before the cloud was lifted. Yeah. She has been completely desisted, and she's very aware and angry about what happened to her, and concerned about protecting other kids. That's really why I got as loud as I did, was at her request to protect other little girls when she realized what happened to her. But yeah, I mean, the first thing we did, we thought, okay, this must be an isolated incident. Let's follow the proper channels. Let's call the principal. I called a lawyer. He said, you've got to stand before the school board and tell them what happened to you and ask for answers. So I did that, tearfully. And it took 3 months to get any of them to respond to me. I finally got to sit down with a board member. She's got a transgender child. She's friends with the activists that were in the classroom. She condoned everything. And really, that was the mindset of all 7 of our school board members, was like, oh no, this is great. We're all about these confidential, secret gender and sexuality meetings with kids as young as 5. And I was floored. Like, wait, what? This is clearly a much bigger agenda with deep roots that I have happened upon. And then we realized the power of public record requests. And so I started to look at the emails about my family after the incident. And it was, these people are barriers that have been removed at other schools. Parents don't have a right to know. They even talked about calling CPS for a well child check on my family 2 days after art club because we removed our daughter from the school. They automatically said, oh, she's not, approving and affirming, therefore she must be abusive. We better remove the kids from home. It was an all-out assault on our family. And I called the police. Because
as you should,
this was a sexual assault of a little innocent 12-year-old girl, and that should have really been my first call. It took me a few months to get there.
Right.
And they said that because there was no physical touch or exposure of body parts, they had no legal recourse, but that doesn't mean it isn't wrong, and that I should get loud to tell other families. And I did. It was, me standing before mom groups and church groups and anyone who was willing to hear my story. until I got on a radio show here locally. And it was actually you, Aaron, who then sent that interview to the most brilliant journalist I've ever met, as it
I
turns out.
agree. Yep.
Alex Newman.
Yep.
And you said, he's got a big audience. You might want to prepare yourself. And I thought,
Yep.
oh, yeah, I've never heard of him. Whatever. I'll talk to him. And it did. It took off like libs of TikTok, Tucker Carlson. I mean, it went viral, which just goes to show people are appalled by what's happening in schools. But it also shows how few families are willing to talk about it.
Yes.
And I get that. I've been viciously attacked. I've lost family. I lost my corporate HR career over my public fight, and good riddance. I'm, these God's removing obstacles from my life. That's fine. But I get why parents don't speak up. And most of them are still in the throes of it, just trying to save their little girls from this ideology. And so we've made a commitment to be their voice, to just continue to be loud and say yes when the Lord leads us to say yes, and just to inform, so that parents realize this is happening everywhere and you've got to protect your kids from it.
Now, Erin, were you surprised by close friends and close family members? I imagine you thought, oh man, especially being family or really close friends. I mean, they love us. They love my daughter. They don't want to see this kind of thing happen to them. Were you surprised by the response you got?
I was so floored, and I'm a peacekeeper, and I'm a non-confrontational person, and it was really hard pill for me to swallow that people were so angry at me, and even without conversation. I mean, I lost family members who just blocked me everywhere without so much as a conversation. That was probably the hardest hurdle for me to overcome in all of this. But it's just such a contentious topic, and it shouldn't be. And it only furthers my mission to normalize conversation about gender ideology and the danger of public schools, because it should not be a controversial nor a political topic.
No, you're absolutely right. And from talking to you over the years, I mean, it's been very surprising to you that the only people really wanting to talk about this happen to be more conservative leaning people. They're the only ones kind of willing to take this on and show any sort of protection in this area for our children,
Yeah, and I've been really honest and forthcoming that I was very liberal leaning before. I studied elementary education in college. I started college in 2005. You know what that's like. You're indoctrinated into thinking this is how you're supposed to act. And so I have a lot of empathy really for teachers and what they're going through, what they've been taught. But I was pretty left leaning. I voted for, my very liberal governor here who passed laws that hurt my family.
Right.
And I understand now why it's more conservative people who are against this.
Yeah.
I've really shifted my mindset to be a lot more conservative leaning nowadays.
And this has had a big impact on your personal and your family's faith, right? Faith in Jesus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're all born again since this happened.
Yeah. Really. I mean, how can you stand up under it without, having the God of the universe to lean on,
That's right. And, the most important thing we've taught our kids now is there are two sexes, male and female. God created just the two, and he does not make mistakes, and you are perfect the way you are. You're fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
Encourage other parents to tell their kids that early and often. And had we done that, I really think we could have my daughter could have withstood the confusion that was thrown at her. And so I don't think there's anything more important than teaching your kids that early and often. Our faith is what continues to get us through and give us courage and, embolden us to be that loud voice for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Erin, you recently have made a documentary about this whole process. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, I worked with one of my state senators, Kevin Lundberg, who's a filmmaker, and we put out a film called Art Club. It's at artclubmovie.com.
And we will link to it in our show notes.
Yay! It was on our heart to make it free. The people who need to hear our story the most are those who are in disbelief. They're not the people who are going to go through a paywall to watch this film. And so we crowdsource, and we continue to ask for support for people to pay it forward if they believe in the mission of this film. It's the story of an average family, like I said, left-leaning and not very strong in our faith before. And if it can happen to us here in a conservative community, it can happen to anyone, anywhere.
Oh my goodness, for sure, for sure. So, Erin, tell us about some of the other things you're currently involved in, and also some things that people can do to support you, and to also, do you have ways to connect people to get activated in their own areas too? So I know it's a
Yes.
whole lot of stuff, so you just go through all of it.
Yes, this is last year was kind of my year of yes, where if it was on my heart to move
Yeah.
forward with something, I did it. So we made the film. I started Stop Gender Ideology. I know it's a mouthful, but
Yep.
it's just stopgenderideology.com. And that's really to be a resource for parents to inoculate your kids from this ideology that's coming at them from every angle. Conversations to have with your young kids where you're not talking about gender and sex, but you're preparing them for
Right.
those conversations that will come at them, and to be there for rapid onset gender dysphoria parents like myself, where
Yep.
one day your child is a girl, the next day she's been confused and she believes she's a boy, and you don't know where to turn or where to start or what
Yep.
to say. So it's really Stop Gender Ideology. That's a resource for parents, especially
Okay.
parents going through it. I also started a 501, a foundation called Protect Kids Colorado. So here in the state of Colorado, our legislature is off the rails. They are passing the most insane, ridiculous anti-parent bills that are harming kids. I mean, we're now a trans mutilation state. We're an abortion state for anyone who can come in and get abortions at
Right.
any age up until 40 weeks. They're passing laws where teachers must affirm children's preferred name every day, even if it changes and they're 5 years old and the parents say stop it. It will be illegal not to do that with children. So we are taking advantage of. We live in a state. There are 24 states that do this, where you can propose citizens ballot initiatives. So creating law by putting them on the ballot for the people to vote. And we've learned that with these issues with gender incongruence, parents being notified of their children identifying a different way, of having access to what the kids have access in the classroom, consenting to medical care before the kids are harmed, gender mutilation for minors. That's one of the issues we've put forth. People are afraid to talk about it.
Yep.
But if we give them the opportunity to circle the box on a ballot, they overwhelmingly disagree with the direction our state is going. And so we're fighting really hard to just put it on the ballot and let the people of Colorado decide where they stand on these issues, and hopefully be a blueprint for other states to follow suit.
Most definitely. I think this is going to be a roadmap forward for a lot of states. You were very recently at the Capitol working on getting an initiative through, right?
Right. I work pretty closely with Parents Defending Education. Now, they're an organization that is trying to preserve the education system.
Yeah.
I am of the mindset that it's too far gone.
Yep,
It cannot
I
be
agree.
redeemed.
I
We
agree.
should not put our children in the public school at any cost.
Yeah.
But I still believe very much in their mission. And so they have what's called the indoctrination map, where parents can see what's been reported in their area. They can make reports of what's happening. And really, their motto is sunshine is the best disinfectant. We've got to, it all starts with
I
exposing.
like that. Yeah.
So that parents can make an informed decision for themselves, like we didn't have the opportunity to do before it was too late. So we were trying to really work with our senators and our U.S. representatives to put forth national legislation that would protect kids and strengthen families, really is what it boils down to.
Yeah. Now, something that we're going to do here is there is a national day for Don't Mess with Our Kids. Yes. At the state capitals in every state, correct?
Every state. So April 13th, 1 p.m. in your local time. It's through the Her Voice movement, which I belong to, and our motto is "Don't mess with our kids."
Yes.
And we're
yes.
calling moms and their families and friends and anyone who cares about kids to pray, fast, and stand at your local capitol. And 413 is for Esther 413. We believe everyone was born for such a time as this. We all have a very different role to play. Mine is being very loud.
Yep.
Other people's might be organizing or fundraising or exposing, but we all have a role to play in standing up for the innocence of our kids.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, Erin, I see a lot of the mamas, the homeschooling mom is like a real big hashtag, and Mama Bear. And it is fantastic that we have moms getting involved. What have you seen with dads? Is there
if I were to guess, it would seem to be that dads are a little less likely to be outspoken. My guess is because perhaps the dad may have a job that supports the family, generally speaking. So first of all, is that true overall that there are more moms for this sort of thing that are being, joining these organizations and being outspoken? And secondly is, how can we connect the fathers who care deeply about their children and children in general?
You are spot on. So my husband is actually featured in the art club movie that we put out, and he's a shy engineer type, and he's not one that likes to be in the spotlight, but he
Yeah.
did that because he has a heart for activating dads. The way he puts it, they're the bow, we're the arrow. Yes, the
Yep.
moms were out on the front line, we're the
Yep.
loud ones, but I'm only out there doing speeches and standing on stages because my husband is, holding it down and supporting me and lifting
Right.
me up
Right.
when I need. So, but we need men on the front lines too.
Yes.
I mean, we cannot do it alone. The moms, and he's really struggled with this. I think he's going to come on your podcast too and can talk into
Fingers
it.
crossed. Maybe you can put it. You know him pretty well. Maybe you can put a good word with him.
Yes, he asks this question every time he's engaged with dads who are in the fight, and what he thinks is that traditionally it's mom's role to take care of the family. We're a big believer in traditional family roles, and
Yes.
so that's we're the ones that take care of the kids. They go to work, they come home, they want to hear about what's happened during the day, but it's the moms who've been at home with the kids all day,
yeah.
and it's we're inherently wired to protect our kids at all costs. And so it's an inherent thing. It's, traditional family roles. Moms take care of the family. You're right. Dads have jobs that they can't afford to lose. As I've lost my career, I get
Yeah.
that happens when you speak up, but it's definitely part of my mission to activate the dads, the Papa Bears as well, because, we've got to all fight together. We can't do it alone.
We do. Erin, how often do you see well, wait a minute. Let me stop there before I get too far on my next question. Where do you know of any organizations, any movements that are really led by dads and fathers out there, or are they yet to be started?
Yeah, well, there's the Dad Army. That's actually a wing of Gays Against Groomers. I believe there's the Mom Army and the Dad Army. We've got some here locally. We've got like Patriot Grandpas, Patriot Dads. I've seen some local efforts, and really, things happen at the local level. I cannot emphasize that enough. As I met with our senators in Washington a few weeks ago, they said there's not a whole lot we can do for you. You, the activists in your communities, have got to affect change there. That's where change happens. And so there's not a lot of groups. There's, like Moms for Liberty welcomes dads. I know of dads here locally who belong to that, but there's definitely a need for more dads to stand up and organize, even just gather together and pray, gather together and have coffee once a month.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts. So it's on our heart as a couple, my husband and I, to really activate the dads to join this fight as well, because there's a need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that as well. And hey, any dads watching, hey, all right, feel convicted. You should be convicted. That's right. Absolutely right. Erin, I was going to parlay just as we're sort of winding down here. You mentioned abortion. And what I want to know is, do you feel these issues are hand in hand, where it's in protecting our kids from transgender ideology, sexual theory? Do you feel like that goes hand in hand with abortion rights, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things on that front. All of this stems from the assault on the nuclear family, on God's design.
100%.
The family is the root of why our country is so successful, and it's really a Marxist attack in our schools, and it all stems from an attack on the nuclear family. So yes, that the attack with gender ideology, it's the same thing with abortion. That's an attack on the nuclear family, on the traditional family structure. So in that way, they're very similar, but also there's this connection to Planned Parenthood. Like Planned Parenthood made all of its, they are the primary designer of sexual ed curriculum in the country. So they are in our classrooms, speaking into our kids' lives. Their primary driver of funding was abortions. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned, you've seen a massive shift to puberty blockers and gender affirming drugs.
Yes.
And so Yeah, both of these were money drivers from these big powers that be that are pushing the gender ideology agenda. They were also pushing the abortion issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the connecting factor culturally is Planned Parenthood, right? That should tell you everything you want to know about this movement, and about abortion. And it's very, very startling and surprising roots of Planned Parenthood too. And I encourage anybody listening here to check into that, because you're going to find some really bad stuff involved there. So
Margaret Sanger, and
Yeah.
really that was an assault on the Black community. when she
Absolutely.
did it. It was to exterminate the Black population, which is
Yep.
it's scary to think how many Black babies have been aborted.
It's
since the beginning.
horrifying. It's horrifying. And you will find today most Planned Parenthood centers are in predominantly Black neighborhoods, and that is by design.
Yeah.
Okay, so Erin, now my audience it was hopefully nationally, but if somebody would want to see you speak in person here, you have some things lined up, correct?
Yeah, I travel with Her Voice Movement. That's just Her Voice Movement, or Don't Mess With Our Kids.us. We're in a different city every month. And actually just this weekend, I was in LA. Last month, I was in Houston. Next month, I'll actually be in Naples, Florida. So I'll be in your neck of the woods.
Ish. Yeah.
Ish in Florida. And Florida's our home. And I can't emphasize enough. We moved to Colorado in 2018. My husband's a Florida native. And people are, first of all, like, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, right.
We didn't understand why we were here. And
Yep.
then this horrible thing happened to us, and it was the darkest year of our life. And now, like you said, we're strong in our faith. We're on the other side, and we go, oh, okay, Lord, I get it. I get why you put me here. And also, can I leave now, please? And the answer is no.
Yes.
We're here in the lion's den to be a leader in this fight. Like we said, to start a blueprint for other states to follow suit. So Florida is near and dear to my heart.
That's great.
Obviously. And we've got to hold the line even in entirely conservative states, because what happens in California and Colorado does not stay here. It trickles out to everywhere else.
No, and we are constantly getting an influx of people that are moving here because they feel like the laws are better for them, but they don't realize why the laws are better for them. And with all of these people that are constantly coming in, I mean, there is a very large, loud voice in Florida against what the government or what the local government is doing. There's a lot of people that don't like our government, that our governor, who's been really, really great for families and children's rights. And so you're right. There is no rest. I mean, we have to hold the line. So
Yeah.
Erin, do you think everyone is called to work to protect children?
Everyone has got a role to play, even people who don't have children. I've had a lot of people go, well, my kids are grown, or I don't have any kids, so I don't pay attention to the school board. And it's like, well, your local school board, A, has a lot of power over your community, and B, you pay their salaries. So why wouldn't you show up and pay attention to what they're doing and dissent when you don't agree with what they're doing with children? Like we said, the core of America and of why we have been so successful is the family. And whether or not you have your own kids in the fight, you have everything to lose if you do not stand up for the protection of children and families.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Well, we here at Homeschool Edge, we are going to promote some of your upcoming events and speaking engagements. And we're going to help everybody get connected to you and what exactly you're doing. And Erin, thank you so much for giving me a little tiny bit of your time. I know you're on a meeting before, and now you got other stuff to go to. So thank you for being here, Erin.
I appreciate you so much, Erin. Like I said, you were the catalyst that put us out into the atmosphere with our story, and have been truly the most supportive family that we've had through all of this. And I just am so grateful for your mission to educate others and be a resource for homeschoolers, because there's no greater option for your kids than homeschool.
Hey, I agree with that quite a lot. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.